Good morning, Year 6. It is time for your maths lesson, what will hopefully be your last maths lesson on Google Classroom before we're all back together again on Monday, which I'm looking forward to. I hope you are as well. But your last lesson of maths today is to find the mean. This is something that we looked at before Christmas, and it is a word you would have heard before, this word mean. It means absolutely nothing about being unkind or nasty to someone, though, in a mathematical context. It simply means finding the average of something. And it's really, really useful for you to be able to do this, to find the mean of something, to find the average of something. It's quite straightforward what you need to do. You simply need to add up all the numbers and then divide by how many numbers there are. So if I show you this example here, you can see we've got 5 separate numbers. We've got 3, 7, 1, 4 and 5. So we've got 5 separate numbers, 5 separate pieces of data here. So imagine that I asked 5 children in my class. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I asked 5 people in my class, how many pets do you have? Imagine that's the question I asked. How many pets do you have? And I asked 5 people that question. And these are the responses. So one person said 3, one person said 7, one person said 1, one person said 4, and one person said 5. Okay, so they're the responses that we got from those 5 people. Someone said 3, 7, 1, 5, 4 and 5. So they were the responses. And if I wanted to find the mean number of pets of these 5 children, or the average number of pets of these 5 children, what I would do is I would add up all their responses. I would add them all up together. That would be my first step. There are 2 steps involved in finding the mean or finding the average. The first step is to add up all the numbers from the responders. So if we were to do this then, and it doesn't matter which order you add them up, using your number bonds here can be really useful. Doesn't matter which order you add them up, as long as you add them all, you add them all up and you don't miss any. So 7 and 3 is 10, add 1 is 11, add 4 is 15, add another 5 is 20. So the total number of pets is 20. But if I wanted to find out the average number of pets, the mean number of pets, what I need to do then is I need to divide the total number by how many people responded to that question. And we know that 5 people responded to that question. This person said 3, this one said 7, this one said 1, this one said 4, and this one said 5. Now, so that's why we do 20, the total number, divided by 5, the number of people who were asked the question. Now we know what 20 divided by 5 is, but we know our answer will be somewhere between the largest number, 7, and the smallest number, 1. It'll be somewhere in between there. 20 divided by 5 is 4. So the average number of pets, if that was the question that was asked here, the average number here is 4, because we've added them all up and we've divided by how many different people were asked. So that's finding the mean or finding the average. And what we've done there, we've found the mean for that question. So if we have a look at another one here now, imagine this question was how many goals a footballer scored over 6 seasons. Okay, how many goals they scored. So I know that it's over 6 seasons, and I'll write 6 here, is because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different numbers, 6 different pieces of data. So the question was how many goals a footballer scored over 6 seasons. We're going to be dividing our total answer by 6, aren't we? We're going to find out what the answer is, and then we're going to divide it by 6 because we have 6 different pieces of data. Now, you might be looking at this 0 here and thinking, well, hang on a minute, that's 0 there. Why is that one in there? That is still really important because that's still part of the data, isn't it? So if this is the first year, the second year, the third year, the fourth year, the 5th year, and the 6th year, in this 3rd year, the player just didn't happen to score any goals, but it's still part of the data. Okay? we're not going to be dividing it by 5, we're still going to be divided by 6, because this response just happened to be 0. There were no goals scored that year. So we need to do exactly what we did with the previous one. We need to add them all up, and then we're going to divide this time by 6, because we've got 6 pieces of data, we've got 6 numbers. So let's add them up. So 9 add 1 is 10. Don't need to add anything onto this, so add on another 6 is 16, add another 10 to 26, add 4 to get us to 30. So it'll be 30 divided by 6, which is 5. So the average number of goals scored by this player, if that was the question that was asked, would be 5 goals. That's the average number of goals they scored every year. Even though, interestingly, on none of the years did they score exactly 5 goals. That was just the average number of goals that they scored on that year. So remember, there are 2 steps to finding the mean. Step 1 is to add the numbers. And then step 2 is to divide by the amount of responses. Now, I've just made up 2 separate questions there, one about pets and one about number of goals scored. It could be about anything. I've just done that just to give you a context, just to give you an idea of the types of questions that you could be asked. So, if you have a go at this one now I'll help you out. First of all, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You've got 10 separate pieces of data, 10 separate responses in here. Okay, so imagine the question was, imagine someone was training for a marathon. How many miles did they run over 10 days? If they were training for a marathon, how many miles did they run over 10 days of training? So you're going to be adding those all up, and you'll be dividing it by 10. Okay, so remember, you're adding all those numbers up, then you're dividing it by 10 to find what the mean is. So you might have to pause the video there, add up those 10 numbers, then divide it by 10 and see if you got the right answer. Okay, so let's add these up then. So 6 add 3. Now remember, you can add these up in whatever order you like, as long as you add them all up, but we'll go along in order. 6 add 3 add 1, that's 10. Then if we add another 10, it's 20, 23. Then add this on, gets us to 27. Added on 11 goes to 37, 38. Add this 2 on, 30, add this onto here, keeps it 38. Add this 2 on, gets us to 40. And then we finally add this on to get us to, whoops, that doesn't go there, does it? It goes to 46. Okay, so imagine that was the question that was asked. The original question was, over 10 days, how far did a runner run every day if they were training for a marathon? So you could build in a bit of a story to that, couldn't you? That they went for a medium-sized run, and then they decreased to, then went for a big run, and then they built themselves up slowly, went for the longest run, then they had a rest day perhaps, and then they started to build themselves up in terms of length of their run again. You could create maybe a little story behind that. So they've ran in total 46 miles over those 10 days. So to work out the average run that they went on throughout those 10 days, you'd have to take the total and divide it by the number of days, the number of responses, the number of pieces of data you have here. So 46 divided by 10 takes us to 4.6. So the average number, the average distance they ran every day was 4.6 miles, okay, which is somewhere between the smallest and the largest number, isn't it? So then I could ask you a further question from that and say, on which day did they run the closest to the average? And you would look at the number that is closest to 4.6, which is this one here, isn't it? So you could say on day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you could say on day 6, they ran the closest to the average number of miles. Okay, so there's lots of questions you could be asked about the mean, okay? But the crucial thing is to remember the formula to do it is to add up the numbers and then divide by the amount of numbers there are. Right, so the final one I will give you today, before you have a go at some of these yourself, is this one. So I'm not going to give you any help with what you need to do, but first, remember the first step is to add up all these numbers, and then the second step is to divide by however many numbers there are. So pause the video there for me, Year 6, and see if you get the right answer in a moment. Okay, so let's add these up. So if we add these up, we get 10, and then we add on to get 19, and then 22, 25, and then 31, 32, 33, 34, and then we're up to here, which takes us to 44, 49, and then we add this on to get to 55, and then we add this on, and we add this on, and we finally get to 72. So 72 divided by how many numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we've totaled up the numbers, we've added these all up together, and we've got to 72, and we're going to divide it by 12 because that's how many responses there are within this. If you think about a question that could have been asked by this, you could have done something like how many minutes did someone spend on social media every day, perhaps over a course of 12 days. How many minutes did they spend on social media? But for lots of people it'd be a lot more than this, but that's an example of a question to put it into some kind of context. So 72 divided by 12, what do we need to times 12 by to get to 72? There's not much point really in doing this because we can't, 12 doesn't go into 7, so just need to do 12 into 72. You just need to know your 12 times tables, which we've looked at a lot, and it's 6. So again, if I was to ask you that question, on what days did this person spend that average amount of time, you could say, well, on day 1 they spent exactly 6, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same on day 6 as well as on day 10, you could say that. So remember, the procedure for working out the mean, quite straightforward, 2 separate bits to it. First of all, add all the numbers together, and the second one is divide by the amount of responses. You can see on this one we divided by 6 because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So have a go at this worksheet attached Year 6 of finding the mean, and then complete it and send it back to your teacher. Thank you very much.